Hey folks, welcome to I Hate Feet Gaming. Since this is our first video, I'm sure most of you will recognise me from my main channel, MerkKK. That channel was originally begun just for the dead-eyed production of video game content, but now it's been poisoned by all my other interests. Those of you who originally subbed for raw game reviews probably feel a bit strung out. I made this new channel with my brother, Smooth, with the intention of focusing solely on our gaming exploits, specifically doing games, finishing them, rinsing them clean, and leaving them behind. Outlast was my gaming white whale. Well, one of them. Like if Moby Dick was part of a mariachi trio alongside Resident Evil 7 and Devil May Cry 5. One of the white whales. One of the games of all time, our Outlast. And we decided to go both for the 100%, me on the PlayStation and Smooth on the box. So what did this mean for us? Well, the requirements for finishing Outlast are pretty simple. Finish the game, obviously, literally, figuratively, collect all of the collectibles, and finish the game on the hardest difficulty permadeath mode, aptly titled The Insane Run. One caveat, Smooth's 100% also demanded that he managed that without changing his camcorder's battery one single time. Naturally, this gave him extra bragging rights since, as far as he was concerned, I was basically playing on easy. Whatever mate, you were an accident. The DLC would be much the same, only we'll save that for our next video, it would be too long otherwise. Speaking of too long, this introduction is dragging a bit, so let me show you why I'm so done with Outlast. We each cracked open the game on normal difficulty, in part so that we could focus on experiencing the story and getting collectibles, but also in part because we are big baby bitch boys with pants full of shit and eyes full of big sad tears. Rolling down the driveway, we savoured the moment of brief peace we'd been granted before this enormous undertaking. But these things never last, because Miles was out of the car a moment later and we were both pretending to refresh ourselves on the controls, like we've not both been playing games with similar control schemes quite competently our entire lives.
Wait.
Wait, how do I crouch on this? Circle. There's our jump.
Jumping. Quick peek.
The thundering truck of realisation that this game isn't going to play itself was racing at us, full speed ahead. With the grim weight of dread blanketing the pits in our stomachs, we forged onwards into Mount Massive Asylum, into the bowels of Murkoff. Together we scaled this gothic monstrosity. Yoink! Skipping past the most famous jump scare in this game, definitely top 5 in 2010's horror gaming at the very least, we began our run by upholding the same standards of journalistic integrity Miles has no doubt fostered throughout his career, putting video cameras in the faces of dying men.
They killed us. She got out.
Outlast features two kinds of collectibles, documents and recordings. I don't mean to completely insult your intelligence here when I explain that documents are, as implied, physical documents to be physically collected by Miles throughout the asylum. This is your general exposition, providing information about the asylum, the lunacy that's been happening here, no pun intended, and why summoning a body-possessing devil with inhuman strength and power hasn't gone as well as they'd hoped. Our second collectibles are recordings, moments we need to capture on camera. These manifest as little notes Miles scribbles about his experience and offer us an insight into what a catty boy he can be. Meow Miles. With the dying throes of another faceless soldier captured and ready for the Mount Massive TikTok account, we belted out into the corridor. Although Miles is slowly beginning to realise that he probably shouldn't be here, at least not without a taser or an unreasonably large baseball bat, Chris Walker is walking over to give him one good reason why he needs to stay here for the next 2 to 8 hours. Lifting Miles like a blushing bride on her wedding night, this is foreshadowing, except with a hand around his throat, Christopher Walken tosses us down beyond the relative safety of the administrative corridor, down into the asylum, down with the inmates. The inmates and one greasy-looking priest who regards us with the same ravenous rapture a toddler might stare at an especially juicy caterpillar with. The priest mentions a plan that Miles seems to be a part of, whether he wants to or not, but Miles isn't upsure about that nonsense and he belts off to the security office at his next convenience to see if anyone might be available to pick him up and take him home. Only we are presented with problem number 1. We need a key card for the security office. But first, Smooth had a quick Xbox exclusive accolade to collect.
Yeah, there she is. Woo.
Cue another jump scare I've probably seen more times than I've seen my own brother's face, and we took a detour into the bathroom to grab another collectible from the arms of an apparent Mad Max Fury Road fan. Still, that was simple. I sure am grateful that this could be so easily resolved. Right, we have to film Chris Walker coming in. He doesn't even care.
Come on, mate, fuck off. Got things to do. There we go.
It's lucky that Baron Twink here fits so neatly into all these crevices, or we'd have an issue on our hands. Chris Walker couldn't fit a single sweaty quad through this crack, and doesn't have the presence of mind to wait here for us and ambush us when we inevitably have to return back through it, so snooze you lose, Chris. Down here in the pitch black of the basement, we need to turn the power back on. Similar to Alien Isolation, for example, Outlast is one of those games where you're given a simple goal, but complexity is added over time. Only Outlast has the grace to not be 20 fucking hours long, but that's a whole other conversation. Your objective might be to leave the asylum, but you're going to need the key, and for that you're going to need the key card to access the security door, but for that you need to restore power to that section of the building, and for that you're going to need to squirrel down into the abyss beneath Mount Massive Asylum, press 2 buttons, flick a lever, and smash one final button. Sounds simple enough, right? Trophy. With the screams of our first proper evaded enemy rattling along these sacred walls behind us, we scuttled up out of the basement and back into the light. Oh, I feel sick. I'm gonna drop the bit now where I keep going, wow, I can't believe this is so simple, every time we complete a minor goal, moments before the situation becomes infinitely fucked up and we have to completely pivot in our approach, because you would hate me if I did it every single time. Instead, maybe just take a drink or something.
Oh, look at that. I've been impaled.
With Chapter 1 of Outlast sitting where any T-Rex should be, firmly in the rearview mirror, this is a Jurassic Park reference, we moved on to the prison proper, the place where all the really dangerous inmates are. Thankfully, we are nice and safe in our cushioned prison cell. It's very spacious, and I appreciate the effort taken to decorate.
Oh, hey man.
Well, all good things end, I suppose. Although I hopped out and immediately crammed myself into the opposite crack of the wall, that is, rearing to make some progress through a game that had my hands wetter than your aunt at a WWE event, Smooth busied himself getting acquainted with his neighbours.
Hello. Hey, buddy. Don't suppose you could put some fucking trousers on me?
Staggering past the second worst date I've ever bore witness to, our camcorder hoisted proudly like a pirate's flag, we rushed onwards through the prison. While the prison isn't particularly dangerous, even on Nightmare, where most interactions have a clear solution, it's a complex chapter featuring a ton of bullshit to carefully navigate. I'll take this. Oh, it's my shadow. Oh, Jesus.
He looks pretty normal.
Just shut up! Let me think for a minute! Quiet! Quiet!
Our first real complication began here, in this very room. You'll notice this especially cantankerous man, a man we quietly skipped past with the same caution we'd avoid eye contact with the drunk guy on our train home from work. Thankfully, he's not going to take issue with us. Yet, at least. There we go.
I'm out, bitch.
Which is, nice, because I think he'll at least get one off. This guy was, though. Fantastically on normal, he loses you faster than the aforementioned drunk guy and his house keys, being that Smooth skidded into this room and closed the door, only to have to quietly wait for an aggressive enemy that had long since despawned. With that overzealous noon out of the way, we were free to return to the office where he'd obviously been rubbing his bollocks all over things, and smacked the big red button to unlock the security door into the next block. At a cost. That man that we had rushed past previously was now aggressive, and the flat of his hand locked onto our left arse cheek with pinpoint accuracy. Away. Excuse me. Ow. Thank you. Oh, it's the twins! They got their cock out. Realising that this corridor was taking an insidiously phallic tone, we moved on. Yep, if you hadn't gathered already, this man is one to avoid. Come on, Miles, let's go.
You need a key card for the showers?
How do we leave? Do we go out the window? Yeah, alright. That would make more sense. Oh, room of buckets. This. Oh, I'm looking for this, okay. Miles is looking for books. The insane run. So I'm going to open this because I've just remembered what this is. I'm so scared.
Oh.
Is he in there? I don't know. What? This next room is tricky on normal difficulty, but would become a veritable nightmare on, well, nightmare difficulty and above. Dropping us down onto the lowest level of this prison pen, Chris Walker spawns at the top of the stairs, the only exit. So you can either take my approach... That was a YOLO strap. So on insane mode, I think he moves much faster than we do. Or you can approach it a little more smoothly.
Well then. What the fuck is that?
That's probably the hardest part of this chapter out of the way, but a segment of Outlast that will surely return to haunt us on the insane run. Ah well, that's tomorrow's problem. Outlast grants us a moment of reprieve here with a big room of exposition you know I completely breezed through. Smooth is the one who reads the set dressing, not me.
You alright, man? Not doing anything. Not doing anything weird.
Our time in the prison continued. Crossing into the next block, we now had to climb up and out. Despite how intense this room is, almost every occurrence here is so heavily scripted that you couldn't die if you wanted to. It's nothing but loud noise, but it was with a bang and not a whimper that we scrambled out of the prison, closing the curtains on chapter 2 for once and for all. Now for the sewers. Where the prison was long and complex, but ultimately simple, the sewer is quite the opposite. Here, scripted jump scares are replaced with a very angry and very mobile Chris Walker, a one-shot kill spanner in the works for any run. There's very little to rely on now with the patrolling enemies, and this is where things get very deadly. I'm gonna do this as fast as I can. Flushed. What I didn't realise here was that you could let Chris wander off into the opposite tunnel if you so wished, giving you ample time to go skipping through the sewers at your leisure. I, quite foolishly, approached this with a little too much zest. Oh no! Take 2, and we entered the sewers with minimal fanfare. They're not as drained as I would like, personally, but it's clearly good enough for Miles and this surprisingly lucid inpatient who stops us on our travels to deliver some very useful advice. Don't know what I meant when I wrote that. Ah! Oh.
He's over there somewhere. He's literally right there.
Yes, that's Chris down here with us, the water lapping at his belt line. Depending on your difficulty, he poses very little of a problem, but that doesn't stop you from completely soiling yourself the moment you try and climb up onto the platform. Miles and his butterfingers foil your efforts, as they often will throughout the course of your time with Outlast, and you will always slip and fall back into the water the first time you grab it, triggering Chris to come belting at you from whichever corner of the room he's waiting in, music included. Now, if you wanted any proof that me and Smooth are indeed related... Ah, I'm gonna spin you. Check this out. No. Crying like little babies, we pinballed through the remainder of the sewers, bouncing awkwardly off every single obstacle. If we were to indulge a metaphor, the sewers can be puberty. Making a quick stop to peer through the gore door... I suffered for it. Okay, this is the gore door. We concluded our time with Chapter 3 on a high note. I held the only death of the game so far, and I earned that by being a fool who dared to challenge the laws of physics. Our odds were good enough to face our Chapter 4 with, and Dr. Traeger by extension. Wow, nothing makes me feel more at home than flickering lights and creaky doors. My favourite. The creaking soon became banging and shouting, noises that sat patiently in the back of my awareness, mustering a deep, insidious sense of dread that was worsened by my realisation that I had no idea where to go.
This is the experiment. This is the experiment. This is the experiment.
Well, thank God we're not on insane mode. A lot of people during their insane run, so let's see how we do. You have to look down for it. Press the wrong button to jump.
Who's down there? You're not one of them, are you? Quick, get in the dumbwaiter.
Help me! Help me! Traeger is our next stop on the bus ride to hell, a man with the audacity to drag us along on a mighty, miserable, unskippable 10-minute cutscene. According to the developers, this is 10 minutes long so as to load the rest of the game. It's all background loading. And while I do think that's valid, I would love a PS5 port that accounts for the console's SSD. I had to watch this cutscene many times on the way to completing Outlast, spoilers, sorry, and while it did make for a good opportunity to go to the toilet, it got old. With a mind destroyed by the silliness afoot in this asylum, Traeger wheels us into his surgery.
Give us a chance to talk.
Look at his bum.
Make you.
Look at those fucking scissors.
You paying attention?
What surgery are those used for? We regain control of Miles an eternity later. Ever on the grind, he makes sure to grab the camera. This shit is apparently raw content. Then, for the Vine, go and record that tortured man. We've already made a few snuff movies, what's one more? Plus, I'm at half-mast already.
What?
The next segment is as confusing as it is stressful, and I died a lot. Smooth sauntered through this with the ease of a survival horror veteran, but I found myself getting turned around every which way until we finally broke through. Well, it's roots trigger. That's probably not the right way. Alright, let me think. Not here. Excuse me, trigger. Yeah.
One eternity later.
Ah. My exhaustive amount of trial and error paled in comparison to Smooth's self-assured technique. Well, it's good to be sure we have this down before the insane run, or this will be the end of it. This is also the point in the game at which you learn a difficult lesson about vaulting if you haven't already. If you don't approach the vault at a perfect right angle, you will grind ineffectually off the obstacle until whatever it is chasing you comes by and uses you as a meaty dental floss. Crypto the Necrodancer, yeah, that'll be a quick one. In and out, 10 minutes, platinum. Heh, free. Chapter 4 is over. In search of our next reason to be too scared to move, we headed into the cafeteria. I don't know who was attempting a flambe, but there's definitely more fire here than I think there should be for a standard cafeteria, but fuck it, I'm not OSHA. Ever the professional, Miles stops to interview the assumed arsonist, earning us a fatty cheeve. My girl in the head, because I should surely never. Oh, we got a trophy. In a classic twist of survival horror, arbitrary complexity, if we want to go any further, we'll need to turn on the sprinklers and head through the kitchen. Beyond which are the gardens, our next port of call, and like everything else in Outlast, the execution would be far less simple than hoped for. Chris Walker was back. Luckily, he's not very aggressive on normal. And every single time I watched a playthrough of this, it made me jump horribly. And I cannot remember which corner it is, and I don't even think it's here. We've run into... As we crouched in the darkness, listening to the jingle of his chains and the gentle drones of his hunting music, we tried to judge when he might leave us alone. Next trophy coming right up. With the cafe far wetter, but also far more passable, we rushed through to the one jump scare that always seems to get me. Very true. That segment with the sprinklers is tense but fairly manageable. I think it's pretty hard to die there despite Chris Walker's aggression and strength, but it's still good to get past that because the worst is not only ahead of us, but it's also coming right up, served hot and fresh and steaming on a silver platter. Blundering out into the pitch black darkness of the asylum gardens, our path illuminated only by the occasional flash of lightning that sprung overhead, we fumbled for a key and rushed on through. There's not much here to be scared of besides the occasional wall rider cameo, so we should just enjoy this for now.
What the fuck?
Okay, there's our note. Very scared. Very scared. So this is, I believe, the gazebo. Still, these things never last. The second half of our time in the gardens heavily features our old friend Christopher. Luckily, he runs like a nose on normal. They don't call him Chris Walker for nothing. I was wrong! I'm not where I thought I was! Well done, Miles. Unfortunately, it's not going to be so simple. Oh, I've gone the wrong way. I needed to go anti-clockwise around the gazebo. That's fine. On insane, we'll have to be very careful. This segment is stressful, but luckily won't pose too much of a problem until the insane run, during which Chris Walker gallops like a horse and tracks like a bloodhound. He drags his feet a bit on normal, but rest assured this man is far more agile than he looks. With the visions of his blood-soaked teeth lingering in the back of our minds, we sprinted back inside, now into the female ward. Outlast had like 4 character models when it was released, so the greatest horror of all, women, are actually entirely absent from this game. It represents the wage gap. I'm joking. Well, actually, it's because the experiments taking place down in the lab below the asylum were causing all of the women to have phantom pregnancies, hence why it's so dilapidated, because they were all moved ages ago to different asylums, and it's probably for the best. My cousin was super mean when she was pregnant, and I can't imagine having a building full of that, and then no cute baby to even get to hold at the end of it. Standing at the precipice of a heart attack, Miles forged on, and we with him. In the spirit of needlessly convoluted reasons survival horror games give us to fuck around and a bunch of tight dark corridors for a while, we need to grab another key. Only the key is in a laundry chute that needs to be powered to be opened, and the fuse box nearby is suspiciously empty. It seems that 3 fuses were removed from it and placed around the female ward by the inmates, and now we have to walk to its 3 furthest corners to collect them. Fucking typical. This segment of the game is really tricky, and on Insane I personally just don't even try, more on that later. To my understanding, there is one bloke who patrols the corridors of the female ward looking for trouble, and Miles, quite unfortunately, fits this profile. On my nightmare mode practice runs, he slapped my bum so hard every time I thought I'd slipped past him, seemingly able to locate me through walls and sniff me out from meters away in the pitch black. Turns out there might actually be 2 guys, which would explain a lot. Ah. Wait, Kung Fu Panda? With the key grabbed, we were free from the female ward. Now, it's at this point that our paths diverged. Fed up with my time in the female ward, aware that my impatience would be the death of me on insane difficulty, I took the time to investigate my options. Checking out an old forum post on PSN profiles, I learned of the existence of a skip, specifically of the female ward, specifically of the part of this game I find to be hardest by a country mile. Well, don't mind if I do. Yeah, so there is a way that you can just fall to your death there. Okay, so we've come out on the other side of that, but we don't want to be there. This would serve me well, I felt. This skip operates by having you lean into the corner of the map here, which makes Miles fall into a segment of map directly below. And that segment of map just so happens to be the next section of the game. You reappear shortly after the moment in the story in which Miles loses his camcorder, and while you still technically have your camcorder, the door you need to open to continue to the end of the game won't unlock until you go back and grab the one Miles loses in a cutscene. So we did that. Work smart, not hard. Right, see, here we go. Now we've done it. So, while this move allowed me to take great strides in my Outlast progress, it earned me household ridicule. My brother utterly hates skips. And my foolish moves here were enough to justify insults abound at the dinner table. Gosh, it is so nice to be back with the family. On a more relevant note, Smooth navigated the female ward with an efficiency unbecoming a man who would typically run screaming from women of any kind.
What did this guy do? Jesus. You enjoy that room to yourself, pal, 'cause I don't want it.
Where am I going? So, we pick up the camera, and as we do, there'll be some guys approaching us from the left. So yes, it's nice to be back on track. The hardest segments of the game were behind us for now, and on normal difficulty you hardly need to break a sweat to get here. Still, a few places where we could potentially die waited up ahead. A few tricky platforming segments, a few nasty Chris Walker segments, and a few wall rider roughhouses await. Clambering out this mess of a wing, we moved on to the final section of the game. The church, the return to the administration block, and the descent into the lab. 3 to go, so let's get it. Chris Walker met us fresh out of the female ward, and I didn't even notice. Sorry, you've not earned your fun pass today. There's a door and it will be ajar. Head up into the vent for the collectible. Smooth approached this moment with a little more integrity.
How has he not seen me? What?
Not today, pig boy. As we scurried back towards the familiar sights of that lift in the administration block, we met an equally familiar face. Probably the most friendly face in Mount Massive Asylum, who stopped by to deliver a crucial bit of information.
The key to the house of God is in the theater, behind the light.
Thanks, man, but I mean, this game is pretty linear. It's not like I could get lost here. Next up was the theatre, an unusually quaint little section of the asylum featuring a small cinema and a nice piano. The Pinhead cameo set the scene, although he didn't seem happy to see us.
I came.
This fairly late section of the game is here to make sure you have all of your facts straight, should you be interested in straightening them. The story of Outlast is surprisingly deep, featuring a ton of reveals and a surprising amount of science fiction writing. And since we're about to go down an elevator and arrive in a futuristic lab, I guess the game wants to give you one final chance to catch up on the lore if you've not been reading the collectibles up until this point. Smooth has, obviously, but I didn't come here to read, and I also didn't come here to watch, so I engaged minimally with this theatre, leaving my brother in the dust to soak up the story of these hallowed halls.
Exit interview recorded December 27th, 1985 in Los Alamos, New Mexico. Clearance Sierra Alpha. Subject Dr. Rudolph Wernicke, 14866.
The twins bust through the door at the end of the theatre segment, but they are easily avoided. It's a shame too. These guys were pretty eerie all that time ago in the prison block. They burst into the theatre in the pitch black, meaning you might not even realise it's them as you go skimming past them. And skim past them we do, because it's time for another unskippable cutscene.
You alone shall escape it, Alpha. This is your penultimate.
out of the fire and into the frying pan. Chris Walker meets us shortly after this, not giving us a moment to recover from the sight of one man's impression of a small specific thing that we have to go and do. Oh god, he's gonna beat my head in. I'm stuck on a table. Oh! With this, our time in the asylum was done. Sprinting out through the kitchen, we, or Miles I suppose, jammed the key into the control panel on the elevator and stabbed the button to descend. Unfortunately, these things are never so simple. Despite landing at the ground floor, the elevator continues to descend, dragging us down into the icy bowels of Mount Massive. The final area of Outlast is a stark contrast to the bulk of the game. The light is glaring and industrial, like those buzzing bright lights they use in every classroom, kind of tinged with blue, uncomfortable. The walls are dug out, the floor is polished clean. This place is all white, all metal, all alarms, shipment containers, machinery, equations, and if you've not been paying attention, it's confusing. Our first step, well, Miles' first step, is to find out what's going on down here. Our first step is to walk back and forth along the corridors, triggering the scripted events required to unlock the final room.
All the outdoors.
I think I've put 6 or 7 playthroughs.
Chris!
And I have no idea how it works. Yuki, hey, how you doing? So yeah, I think our character gets their camera after this. This is Wernicke, your typical German scientist archetype who wants to summon the Walrider for reasons. Understanding that the Walrider, some nanite swarm named after some old German folktale, can only occupy a body that has suffered intense trauma, he has brought Miles down here to be the perfect vessel. Why? I don't know. Apparently he wants to create a super soldier, but you'd have to be willfully ignorant to not see how much of a silly idea that is. Wernicke sends us into the main laboratory where we meet Billy, the current host of the Walrider. And we have one thing to do here. Turn off old William's life support. Easy. Show me where the plug socket is. Unfortunately, survival horror logic kicks in again. We need to run down 2 completely separate, opposite corridors, completing assault courses whilst under the pursuit of the Walrider, and then pressing buttons or turning valves at the tail end of each. It's never so easy, is it? The second you slap your hand on that handprint reader, you've finished the game, functionally. Remember that for our insane run. It's the moment we'll both be dreaming of. Pulling a classic Miles, we filmed a dead man for the penultimate trophy of our first run. Hey, Pulitzer! Right, now we have to leave. All we need to do now is stagger back up the steps and through the corridors via the kebab shop, get shot a few times in a cutscene, and...
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, if only it was that simple, right? If you already knew about Outlast before venturing this far, the latter half of this video is no doubt what you've been waiting for. If you came here by accident or out of base human curiosity, I'm about to give you something to get so hyped about. The Insane Run. The crescendo of the Outlast experience, the Insane Run trophy, quite reasonably titled Lunatic, asks that you complete a single run of the game from start to finish on Nightmare difficulty. On this difficulty, almost every enemy in the game will kill you in a single hit, and dying means starting fresh. Smooth had a small errand to run first. He needed to earn the Xbox exclusive Claustrophobe trophy, which required a full playthrough without hiding under a bed or inside a locker. Thankfully, you can cheekily grab this one by reloading a save after completing the game, which spawns you in the lab at the end of the story. One quick whip around and a euthanized Billy later, he added another achievement to his list.
Easiest game of my life.
It was time for the real deal. Outlast is a game you can sprint through in anywhere between 45 and 60 minutes, depending on how much time you waste watching Chris Walker patrol uselessly past the bed you're hiding under, and depending on whether you use that female ward skip, which I would be embracing with both arms. The insane mode run is done on nightmare difficulty, except with permadeath. Enemies are dangerous and revoltingly aware and will sniff you out, often while you're hiding under cover. Pitch black darkness won't save you, and neither will the gentle embrace of a locker you've just pelted into after feeling as though you've lost them in a chase. These people are doing too much. We hit chapter 1 like the Titanic, barging up the scaffolding and into the asylum. Swinging my big fat PSN dick around the place, I grabbed a camcorder battery while Smooth made do. Silky. Greeting Chris Walker like an old friend, he slung us over the barrier into the asylum and our run began. First stop, security badge. Yoink. And as our run began, our different approaches really began to manifest.
This isn't a speedrun attempt, so I'm not in a rush.
Yeah, see? I don't know if there's a certain amount of RNG to the AI. Scuttling down into the basement like little sibling woodlice, Smooth and I grappled with the first major danger of the insane run, the basement guy. Tearing out of the basement, we left that fool with his pants around his ankles. Chapter 1 is by no means hard, but it still feels good to get back to the security room and know that it's in the past. Chapter 2, the prison, awaited us next, and as we sat in the quiet, stress-free oasis of unskippable cutscenes, we really embraced the options afforded by the Outlast Insane Run to sit down for a bit and let the heart rate regulate. As we loaded into the prison, we considered our next few hurdles. Here, we'd see the twins, Chris Walker, and some easy platforming, but only Chris would be an issue, so time to go. While Chris seems his most dangerous as he's coming through the security door, it's actually here and now that makes or breaks this chapter. All in all, that went without a hitch. It's such a shame that the parts of this game that will actually kill us don't show up in spades until the later chapters, with one notable exception, Chapter 3. While all immediately deadly encounters had been neatly scripted up until this point, Chapter 3 features Chris Walker doing what he does best, cracking the pedometer out and taking a stroll. Patrolling enemies do have consistency, but what they lack in jump scare potential, they pad like a jockstrap in deadliness. Maybe Pog. Because normally Potates he's on us, like, from the second we do that. Right, oh, we're safe. Yes! Okay, that was the bit that killed me. Once we're through the water room, up through the ladder, we'll be free of the sewers. Now, just to get there.
That's why we practice, boys. That's why we fucking practice.
Nervous? Thankfully, the next segment of the game was a chase segment I'd describe as mild. A bunch of dudes, loads of time, and loads of easy obstacles to overcome. We need to worry about what's on the other side of this. Traeger is at the halfway point of the game, roughly anyway, with his whole level serving as one big boss encounter. On insane mode, that meant leading him down routes we could close off with doors, forcing him to take time breaking them down. But if you fuck up the timing on it even slightly, his AI will recalibrate its path and he'll just go a shorter way, ending your run immediately. I skipped out to take a piss. Right, go for a wee. Enjoy! But soon we were seated and ready for behaviour level loops. Right, go. We managed to evade him by going slowly and carefully. But we also had one death where we just got stuck on a pallet and Miles couldn't move and Chris just found him and killed him and it was very annoying. Good night, Doctor. With our victory against Traeger in the rearview mirror, we rushed to the cafeteria. Turn the valve. Go and hide behind the laundry bin. For a part of the game that feels so tense, the run past Chris Walker can be done very consistently when you know the approach, which is great for us. The garden sprawled ahead of us, but we'd each mastered our approaches. Right. Oh, I jumped. Oh, he's right behind us. I can hear him. Okay.
Probably the 3 bits I think I'm going to die at.
With the realisation that we were through the garden, I started to get excited. Well and truly, for me, the worst was behind us. My deadliest segment of Outlast, the female ward, was nullified by the skip, which meant that my homestretch had begun early. I took a breather here. With the hardest part of my run behind me, my voice was shaking audibly. My heart was hammering in my chest. The stress of this run had me at breaking point. But now I could relax. As long as I finished this run, I had the trophy, so no stupid mistakes. Approaching the female ward, I leaned into the skip, tumbling into the abyss under the map. With my angles straight, we jogged forwards and... didn't expect a loading screen. I wonder what this is. Well, that is not supposed to happen. 40 minutes into the run, a gnat's tit away from the finish line, I had lost. In all my care to take things easy and not make a stupid mistake, I had made a stupid mistake. Can you guess what it was? I'll give you a few seconds. Did you catch it? Yes, I ran. I skipped through the wall and then I ran, whereas I had walked in all of my practice runs. And this meant that the next section of the map hadn't had time to load in by the time I landed there, which meant I fell into the map again for real, which meant I died. On the home straight, I had died to a mistake so raw and stupid that I was at a loss. I bowed out, ending my stream, and vowed to return tomorrow. And with that, only one of us remained. Whoa!
It's important to remember that there are holes in the floor around here. Big holes.
Turns out that trying hard and learning things can often pay off, which is news to me. While I had taken one shot at the female ward and failed and immediately opted for an illegal strat, Smooth had worked on his approach until he had it nailed, and he sailed through without a care in the world.
Him. As soon as he jumps over, mirror it. Do not get lost. Let's slam that on him. Let's take this and get ready to go around the table. Interact with it. Oh my god.
Key claimed and one cheeky insta-kill gap jumped, Smooth soldiered on with only a crumb of battery left. Follow the blood. I did try to show Smooth the female ward skip on Xbox previously, just to show off what a snazzy trick I'd found while he watched completely unimpressed, but it doesn't seem to work on his console. Not that Smooth would have used it anyway, but playing the game in its entirety meant that his precious camcorder battery was draining with every flash he used to briefly get his bearings. Moreover, the climax of the game would see many cutscenes where the camera would be used whether you want it used or not, by Miles himself. And yes, the battery does drain even when he's using it in a cutscene. Despite the worst of it being behind us, it was a race against time. Leaving me and my integrity firmly in the dust, my brother, the apple of my eye, stormed Mount Massive Asylum, grabbing his lost camera and returning to the administration ward with a heart beating so hard you'd think the neighbours were at it again. Chris Walker dropped like a lead balloon, but didn't even notice Smooth as he scuttled up into the vent above, neatly evading him. With just the cinema and the lab ahead, sandwiching a filthy, unskippable toilet break in the church, Smooth forged on. No time to comb through the environment this time, there's work to do. More specifically, there's poo to do, because we're about to take our next knee in front of the burning crucifixion of the priest of Mount Massive, and he talks a lot for a man with bigger problems, so you may as well take a toilet break. Beyond the fairly null threat of the twins and the cinema, I don't think they've ever killed anyone here for the record, we had our penultimate showdown with Chris Walker, and Smooth played it as safe as he was willing to, minutes from the end of the game.
Good.
Yeah, there are probably quieter ways to deal with him, but hey, I can't talk. I fell under the church and died of fast onset asbestos poisoning. Okay, final chapter. The home straight. Smooth stumbled into the lab, and it's all downhill from here.
Run like shit.
To explain. I know. I am supposed
No such luck. I am older than
Okay, Smooth, hold it together. The Wall Rider spawns here in a small chase segment before you meet Billy. The Wall Rider basically spawns next to you, which is visually pretty intimidating. So ever the cautious man of careful preparation, Smooth doubled back on himself, leading the Wall Rider backwards towards the cafeteria. He hoped to do this to gain a bigger distance between him and the ghostly cretin and...
He sounds right behind me. What?
oh dear, so close to. As someone who lives with Smooth, I can assure you that he took this so well that he came downstairs and sat on the floor with his head in his hands for a good long while after this moment. One blunder. To our estimations, he'd not given the Wall Rider enough time to follow him into the cafeteria, so the Wall Rider had plenty of time to catch up during that sprint into the next room, cornering him up on the balcony. Another run lost, an innocent heart shattered. No one would be escaping Mount Massive, it seems. I'm here, calm, just doing some practice runs. After yesterday, that actually broke me. I think because the adrenaline of this game mode is so intense and sustained. So like my heart was hammering the whole time. I felt like I was going to be sick. I don't normally get that like tense over stuff, so I got super wound up, really panicky. And then obviously we just fell through the floor, so like my adrenaline was just there, and then it just went.
It's game time, boys.
Smooth starts strong with some sweaty scaffold strats. Hi Chris! Yes, it's me again. Yoink! Missing any recordings, Smooth? Look at the flash strats on that camcorder. Couldn't be me. I didn't know you could just jump past him like that. I was like, I don't get why you're doing this. Ever the diligent journalist, Smooth. The hoes at Huffington Post are gonna love this. Any plans to take this one seriously today, mate?
No.
Sorry boys, just gonna squeeze around. You know, Smooth says I'm a chatterpillar, but I think there's something to be said for being able to fluently hold a conversation whilst shagging an insane run like this.
Damn.
So Layers of Fear I didn't finish. Yoink. Wait, like our hightail is so quick that I've literally never even seen him. Tensest moment of the chapter coming right up. Never doubted us for a second. Now to climb to the top. Smooth's favourite Outlast fact is that Miles actually kills this dude in the earliest versions of this game. I guess they didn't want him to get his hands dirty. Nice work on forgetting to close the door there, Kirsty. Sloppy.
Don't get nervous.
Sage words, Smooth. Sage words. Chris didn't even chase him. That's youngest sibling privilege. Oh, that is rat bastard behaviour. Yes, I do still turn away from that very mild jump scare. Why do you ask? Smooth has this place completely memorised. Probably because he spent so much time mastering this strat.
What's that?
Ooh, see that? Miles began the animation that occurs when Chris grabs you from behind, just as he hit the ladder. Outlast made a choice here, and thankfully our boy got off scot-free. Go buy a lottery ticket, Smooth. For once, I was the measured one. Usually you can kind of see him, he's got like, with the night vision, he has like glowing eyes, which is really creepy. Not today, friend. We're now over a third of the way through. Traeger time. At the perfect place to put the battery, but... Consider this whore slippery. Right, well, we got 10 minutes now. You can realistically hide on both sides of this door, but as the oldest sibling, I can assure you that my side is the best one. Section is basically impossible. Why yes, Billy Big Balls here did barge past the good doctor. Why do you ask? Smooth, your strats give me heart palpitations. And with that, we are halfway through Outlast. We've all had that housemate who sets the heating to tropical and then goes home for Christmas. I just hide behind the laundry bin here. I think Smooth loves his constant flirtations with death. He has to come out of that animation and then aggro on you, which gives you plenty of time. The sounds of Chris's chains are so difficult to place here, they echo all up the corridor. I've never seen him in the sprinkler room, but I guarantee the day I relax is the day he's waiting for me in there. Smooth, have you gone mad? You can tell I learned a lesson here. Incredible. Counterclockwise, go around the gazebo. I've gone around it clockwise once, but on normal difficulty. I don't know if he's... No! Nothing fucked anyone as hard here as my own anxious pathing. That was very nearly the end of my run. Thank you, Birch. God, I shit my pants. And we go right to the corner and we face the wall. Then we peek left. And then we walk forwards very slowly. We do not run. Easy work. I'll let Smooth catch up for a bit. Taking candy from a baby. That is the riskiest use of an animation I have ever seen. And I wait for Chris Walker to lean in to scan the BBC website before I pop out of the locker in chapter 1, so I'm saying something. Mate, you make this look easy. Actually, it seems like someone's AI is broken. I love that for him. All good things come to an end, I suppose. Smooth, you skimmed the female ward in less time than it takes me to put my socks on in the morning. Well played.
Pitch black.
Nicely dodged, Smooth. Glad it's not me doing this.
I was fine the first time.
Alright, we're back in the room. Let's grab the camcorder and bolt. It felt nice to get to use as much battery as I needed. Sometimes I just leave it on, let it run. Why not? Probably didn't need that big of a running jump. Hey, Chris! Hit the floor, which is useful. But, you know. It's Smooth's turn to play this safe. He carefully climbs back down to the cinema like a hamster down its cage walls. I just flop off the side of the banister. The bathroom crouch never did me wrong, and risky strat number 15 never did Smooth wrong either, since he tries to kite dear old Christopher around a couch and accidentally oversteps, almost ending his run right here and now. Easily salvaged, however. With ice in the veins, we descended to the lab. As Smooth anxiously scrambled past a wall rider I didn't even know was there, we flew past his PB and into the final section of Outlast. Okay. Calm, calm, calm. Imagine if you missed this and had to do it all again. What? I'm just saying. Most people have long since run out of camcorder battery here, but Smooth thunders through with plenty to go.
Punch it.
Green bars. Pressing the button. That's it. And it's barely worth paying attention here considering we're done. Yes, the credits have yet to roll, but the handprint has been smashed, the Wall Rider has claimed himself a diligent little friend, and beyond limping out of this lab like a newborn fawn, we have nothing to do but bask in victory. Besides, I was straight back to yapping. Pancakes, waffles with maple syrup, strawberries and cream. Fucking hell, mojito. We've done it. I can't believe we've done it.
Show me it. Show me it. I'm getting kind of scared. Where is it? Where is it? Oh, it just didn't pop up. There you go.
There you go, little bro.
Yeah!
And with that, it was done. We were free. Outlast was conquered. Yes, we have a whole DLC to do yet, but Whistleblower will be the subject of our next video, so stay tuned to that if it sounds like fun. In fact, this channel is brand new. This is literally our first ever video, so please like, subscribe and share. Any support will go such a long way in helping us get this channel off the ground. I really appreciate it. Thank you in advance.